13 part 2. So here we are a continent away, and the monkey has a very similar meaning. This is actually a British artist that was originally from Nigeria, and this is a depiction of a monkey in a more African mythological way, but it's modernized, and so he's trying to capture sex, money, and drugs, and in his cup here. Okay, you can kind of see sex there. I can't read the writing on the other one. I think drugs is up here, money's here. So he's trying to catch these, and these are actually elephant dung balls, and that's elephant dung down here as well. He kind of pushed a lot of buttons by using elephant dung when he first showed work, and people were really offended. But it's, I think, even more inert than cow manure. It doesn't have any like real stinky smell. It's just kind of sticky and turns into sort of like a ball of paper mache. You can think of it that way. But anyway, those were his symbols. So they're three-dimensional objects on top of this canvas that he's painted. And we've looked at him in another part of the book with his drawing style, with tiny little faces, making up a whole drawing. Anyway, this monkey is catching these things. He's very happy to do so. So this is very imaginative. So it's a stand-in for human behavior, some of the things that we do that are our indulgent sides of ourself, and the clinging and sort of behaviors that we do that we don't aspire to, but we still are caught up in, if that makes sense. So he's using this elephant dung also to reference the African ritual use of it, which the book doesn't go into, and I'm not that familiar with, but you see our clumps going down here. Another group of people that use animal imagery, well, I don't know that they always do, but this is a more current contemporary piece, 1989. But this is an Aboriginal comment on the fencing that went up. Again, we're in Australia. We were in Africa here via England. But this is a fence that has been put up by settlers that came from Europe, mainly the UK, England, Scotland, and Ireland. Mostly Irish and Scottish, I would say, in Australia. Don't exactly know, but it was a penal colony, and then people started to build ranches and farms and so on and put fences up, and that was very anti the Aboriginal people that were there. So they're showing this dingo that can go through a fence. So it's a symbol for the native culture that permeates any kind of fencing. And it's also the wild animals' right to the land and the Aboriginal way of life. So protesting these things, if that makes sense. And there's more to this piece, but I'm going to stop there. Observed animals are animals that we've seen in nature. If we think of our Lascaux cave paintings and drawings, this is a similar idea, and this is in Libya. We don't often think of Libya with these ancient petroglyphs or carvings like this, and this is done the way a lot of like southwestern petroglyphs are done. There's different ways things are done. They're painted on, but sometimes they're just scratched away, if that makes sense. So this is sort of a darker aged rock. The rock was like this 10,000 years ago, likely. It takes sometimes hundreds of thousands of years and even millions of years to get this coloration on a rock. It looks like it's dripping from a rainstorm, but that is millions of rainstorms cumulatively to make the rock dark, and then somebody came in with a rock, a sharp sort of an object, and scratched this image of the elephant 10,000 years ago. So we do see this, very realistic. He's in movement. Is exactly how somebody would draw them now. If we were doing a quick sketch, we might draw almost this exact drawing. So it's quite beautiful, quite interesting piece. Now we're in the Saharan desert. Now, the thing about the Sahara is it wasn't always as extremely dry as it is. global warming has been a very slow process reaching back many thousands of years, quite frankly. So there's some things that have changed, and the weather patterns have changed. So the Sahara Desert wasn't always a desert. So we're going to look at another piece here with rock art, that this is a carved relief. So this is just kind of scratched in, if that makes sense. It's sort of like etched. And this piece is carved with stone carving tools in Assyria. And the killing of the lions. We looked at another piece similar to this, but the idea that a king would hunt and kill the lion, that would show his strength, right? Because this is the fiercest animal on earth. So to fight and kill it would show that he had fitness to rule. That's very important. Longer the man or beast took to die, the higher the layer of heaven was attained. Horrible to think about, but if you're suffering and you're dying slowly, I guess that's what you want to think, right? Okay, so there's details in these drawings. This is a carved wall piece. I think it's about 6 feet high, 5 feet high. And this piece is a Nazca spider, and this is where you're going to get into for your essay, right here. And this is in Peru. So we are a continent away. This is in the Middle East. This is in South America. Okay, Peru is in South America. So this giant drawing is what we're calling it. I wouldn't call it a drawing. I would call it a earthwork or a large scale sculpture, because it's a removal of stone. It isn't something where you took an instrument and drew in the sand, if that makes sense. So all of these pieces that make up the spider here, all of that stuff had to be removed and moved around, okay? So it was scraped away, and the yellow surface below. Now remember, it takes millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of years sometimes to create a coloration on a rock. This is a desert landscape, obviously. And then when you move that rock away, sometimes there's another layer of a lighter color underneath, and that's how we got our Nazca lines here. A lot of meaning toward this. I'm going to have you guys research this. 1400 years old, and it's a lighter color underneath. What's our size here? It's not telling us, but this is several hundred feet long. We're viewing this from an airplane flying over. These are roads for vehicles. Before they were discovered, some people drove through them. You can see the marks here. And then they realized they were there, but you can't really undo those road marks, unfortunately. This may have been another part of an ancient earthwork. I don't know exactly, but basically what we're looking at right here is this part of the spider, and then you see this sort of part going off over here, okay? So they're very regular, they're orderly. We don't know exactly how they did them. There's probably an ancient way of measuring that they had by, how many paces they walked or something like that. But they were meant to they were meant to be shown to the gods. And there's several of these. There's not just the one. A hummingbird, there's a bunch of different things. But they were discovered, I think, in the 60s or 70s when people flew over the area, and they realized that they were there. But people have been driving through them for a while before that happened, unfortunately. So back to our monkey in Mesoamerica. Now Mesoamerica is Central America, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, that area. So this was a monkey that was in their thinking is a failed human, and they were kept as pets and often linked to dancers because of their quick fluid movements. A spider monkey, again, was thought of as less. You can think about why monkeys, if you ever go to the zoo, that you realize that they're kind of out in front of everybody doing their thing, including, acts that we would do privately. And so that there's a thought that the lustfulness or the interaction and the sexuality could it seems extreme in their case, but that's partly because they don't have that. They're animals. They look like us and they seem like us, but they really are animals doing their thing, and they don't have any compunction or worry about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Okay, so the monkey has pierced ears like humans, and when it's shaken, this particular piece, this ceramic piece here, it makes a rattling noise like chattering monkeys. I've taught this before because I teach ceramics, and you can make a vessel like this and then close it off. And inside, you put little balls of clay, you wrap them in paper, and you put them inside, and they won't stick to the clay, and they'll roll around once it's fired. So pre-Columbian Veracruz culture, animal-shaped vessels, very common. There's some other ones. Colima is another one. There's some different pottery focuses on animals that you'll see. So he captured the animated expression and energy of the animal. This is quite small, 8.5 inches. So it was probably, oh, we don't know exactly, but the idea that it was shaking and making noises